here we are, folks. The most important time of the year has come. Yes, I'm not talking about Christmas. No, I'm not talking about the Premier League title. It is the UEFA Champions League playoff round. This is the round that we love. I do not care. We love this round. It is probably my favourite round in the entire Champions League, the playoff round, because this can determine who will play in the top prestigious league and who will be performing in the UEFA Europa League, which still isn't a bad league, but everyone wants to play in the Champions League. It is just a fact. Every team in the world, every team in the European top flight will want to play in the UEFA Champions League. So that is why these playoff games are absolutely massive, and you can tell that with the anticipation and atmosphere these games have around it. So first of all then, let's have a look at our first game and let's go to Ferencváros. So first, let's set off to the beautiful city of Budapest. So here we are then, we have landed in the city of Budapest for this one between Ferencváros and Azerbaijani champions Karabag, who are in the UEFA Champions League playoff round for the second consecutive time. Previously, last season, losing to Dinamo Zagreb in a very, very embarrassing way, especially at home. They really disappointed themselves. I remember watching the game, and they should have done miles better. But, well, yeah, they didn't. It was almost like they didn't want to play in the Champions League, which is embarrassing. So hopefully we can do one better by playing Ferencváros. Now, this game will be a very interesting game because both sides, I think, are very similar. Ferencváros and Karabag are very similar in the way they play. Averages are around in the high 60s. Obviously, in the UEFA Europa League, when both teams played, Ferencváros did significantly better than Karabag. Karabag finished last in the actual group. However, they did beat Europa League semi-finalist Bodo Glimt from last season in Bodo, which is very impressive in its own right. So we do know that Karabag can do some good stuff. We do know they can do some good stuff. And the manager, Gurben Gurbanov, will know what to do with this Karabag team. I mean, we have seen in previous years, they are always consecutively in Europe. They're either in the Conference League, they're either in the Europa League. And even that one season in 2017-18, they did get all the way to the UEFA Champions League. Granted, they were in the group of death with Chelsea, Atletico Madrid and Roma, but they were still in the Champions League, and that is something they can be proud of. However, Ferencváros, on the other hand, their last time in the Champions League was in 2020-21, where they did finish in last place with another group of death. They consisted of Barcelona, Juventus, and Victoria Pilsen. So that was a very, very tough group. And Ferencváros probably knew they would have no chance of even getting in it. So that is why it's been a bit meh. It's been a bit 50-50. Now, looking at this game, Ferencváros, they defeated Ludogorets 3-0 to reach the playoff. They did defeat Ludogorets 3-0 here at the Groupama Arena, while Karabag, they defeated KS Skendia 6-1. Skendia are at a completely different level to Ludogorets. Skendia, this will be the first ever time they will be in a European campaign. Skendia, the champions of North Macedonia. So that is good. That is good, obviously, for them. But Karabag is like it's a different experience, Karabag. And the previous team they did beat before that was Shelburne and Ireland. So like you say, it's a completely different experience. Whilst Ferencváros, Ludogorets, always in Europe every season. They'll probably end up in Europa League this season. And yeah, I just think because of that, especially at this home ground in Groupama Arena, the Green Monster, the Ultras Groups, will be up for it. And that is why I am calling this one a 2-1 Ferencváros win. I think this will be a very close win, do not get me wrong. I think Karabag and Ferencváros will produce a very, very good fight. Gurben Gurbanov and Robbie Keane, we didn't even discuss about Robbie Keane, will make a good fight for themselves. I think this will be a good game as a neutral to watch. However, I do think Ferencváros will just have the one upper hand. Thanks to two goals, Barnabas Varga, who is obviously a Hungarian international, and who knows? For Karabag, we might see a bit of Leandro Ardine. He's been a good player, and he's been a threat for defenders. You obviously see in the way he plays, he can be fretful. He scored 16 goals last season, assisted 8, so he is a good player. But I do think Ferencváros will have the upper hand on this one. That is why I'm saying they will win by 2-1. Then let's continue the trip all the way to Belgrade, Serbia, where Crvena Zvezda, the Serbian champion, facing off against Paphos, the Cypriot champions. Now, Paphos have never actually been in this UEFA Champions League before. They've never actually played in the UEFA Champions League, so this will be history for Paphos. Either way, they are going to in a very hostile crowd today. We do know that the Maracanã is a hostile environment, and put it this way, they might struggle this game. This game they might struggle. Second leg in Cyprus they might not do, but I think this game they may struggle. Partially because, well, it's Crvena Zvezda. Crvena Zvezda are one of the loudest fans in the world, especially at home. And second of all, they beat Dynamo Kiev 3-0 to reach the playoffs, which is a very good result, but you need to take in fact, you need to put in mind, Dynamo Kiev didn't actually play in Ukraine. They played in a neutral venue. And you know what neutral venues are like. They don't get any fans that really go there. So it has been a bit of a struggle. Granted, Paphos is playing in a thingy stadium too. They're playing in a stadium in Limassol, I believe. It's still neutral venue, isn't it? So anything can happen. Whilst here in Red Star, the Maracanã is really a fortress for Crvena Zvezda. They won the league with 86 points last season, 23 points ahead of Partizan Belgrade, and they had a goal difference of 84. If that doesn't scream to you a potent attack and a very scary defence, only conceding 22, then I do not know what is. The second most goals were 58, and that was Partizan. Partizan scored the second most, and that was 58. They scored 106. So I think that does also put into words what Serbian football is like at the minute. The fact Crvena Zvezda is the only one dominating. They are the only one dominating, and by far, you can obviously see in the players. You've got Marko Arnautovic, who signed from Inter Milan. Very big signing. Matches, goalkeeper, he played for Braga. He played for Ajax recently, last season. He started 10 games for Ajax, and that was when they were in a really good run towards the title. And he kept 4 clean sheets, especially a man of the match performance against PSV Eindhoven, who won the league. And in fact, that loss, PSV Eindhoven had against Ajax was their last loss. They haven't lost a game since that point, and he's going to Crvena Zvezda, Red Star Belgrade in Serbia. They're playing in the Serbian league, which, to be fair, apart from Partizan Belgrade and Bachelor Topola, it's a bit weak. So that's all I'm gonna say. So yeah, what do I think this fixture will be? Paphos, they are coming with some force. They recently signed veteran centre back David Luiz. He's got experience. He does have experience, so maybe he could be the one that takes Paphos to this Champions League phase for the first ever time in their history. But I think you have to have a good result here. You have to draw. At least draw. If you can win, they have 1 foot in that league phase. But I think the Maracanã will be a tough and hostile environment for Paphos to take in, similar to Buda Glimt. That Buda Glimt team that got all the way to the semi-finals, they got humiliated here at the Maracanã. And that shows how, when Crvena Zvezda are up for it, they are up for it. Didn't particularly have a great Champions League campaign, but the playoffs, they certainly made. So, what do I think the score will be? I think Crvena Zvezda will give some damage to Paphos, and that is why I'm going to say they will score. Paphos, they will score, but I think it will be 3-1 to Crvena Zvezda, Red Star Belgrade. I think here at home, it's a fortress. Here at home, they beat Lech Poznan 4-2. Lech Poznan made it their place, a fortress. You could obviously see with that tifo, we're reaching for the stars. Very impressive tifo. And they just went to their place and won 3-1. So that shows how dominant they can be. So I do think in that case it will be 3-1 to Crvena Zvezda. I hope Paphos can produce some good stuff, but I just don't see it, in my opinion. I just don't see it. Going up north now to go to Glasgow in Scotland. Then the final game of Tuesday's action, and we are off to Glasgow, to the Ibrox Stadium between Rangers and Club Brugge. This time, this is where the non-champions play. This is where the efficient league coefficients match up and so on. And it is Rangers taking on Club Brugge. And, yeah, another interesting one, Another interesting one. I mean, Rangers, obviously managed by Russell Martin, they aren't doing that great in the league. They've drawn twice. But in Europe, they've done very well. They beat Panathinaikos 3-1. They made a statement and beat Victoria Pilsen, I believe, here 3-1. So, or 3-0 it might have been even. So, they are a good team when it comes to being in Europe. Club Brugge, however, they are a slightly better team. Put it in Europe. They did actually qualify to this stage last season, and they got out of the league phase. Which is very impressive. They got out of the league phase in 24th, and they went to go on and play against Aston Villa. They played Atalanta first, where Comissin Talbi produced very, very good stuff. Obviously, now he's gone to Sunderland, but he produced some good stuff in that game against Atalanta. Then against Aston Villa, where, to be fair, nobody thought they would get in the last 16, so it was a type of accomplishment that they got there. They lost. They lost quite heavily. They lost 6-1 on aggregate, so that was pretty something from Club Brugge and Club Brugge. But I'm sure Nicky Iron will know. Will know his way. He'll want to repeat last season's heroics. And currently he's got 2.2 points per match. So that means it's more or less going to be 3 points. Rangers on the other hand, 1.71 points Russell Martinez. And he did manage Southampton to get in last season's Premier League. But yeah, they will need more Rangers. It depends which Rangers you're going to get. You could either get a European Rangers, which then it will be a good game. But you could also expect a very lackadaisical Rangers that we see in the league where they might not do so good. I mean, the positive thing that is going for Rangers is when they do play Celtic in the Old Firm, they are not travelling as much as Celtic are. Celtic are travelling almost 6,000 kilometres. Rangers, I believe, are only travelling about, I'm not sure, maybe about 500, 600, so, or maybe 1,000, 900. So, it's significantly less. So that will benefit Rangers at point of hand. James Tavernier, he's been doing it at Rangers for 10 years. He needs to produce if Rangers want to get out with this one. Same as Club Brugge. Hans van Aken and Christos Solis. 34 goals and assists last season for Solis. He played every game in the Champions League, and he will most likely play this one in Ibrox. So, ultimately, what do you think it will be? I think, depending on what Rangers you'll get, it'll be a very tight game. And I do think this will be a tight game. So, that is why I will be calling it a 1-1 draw. It will be a 1-1 going to the second leg of the Jan Breda Stadion. They will try and cancel each other out, Rangers and Bruges, and I think they will do quite well. Rangers will score. I think the fans will get all hyped. I mean, Club Brugge will probably score an 89th minute goal, which will slightly deflate the fans a little bit. But do you know what? That's football. That's what happens. That is why I think this game will finish 1-1. A 1-1 draw. Fair result for both teams, and hopefully it will be a better battle in the second leg in Bruges. How about we go more north, specifically to Bode, to see the Arctic club of Bode Glimt versus Sturm Graz. And what I do find very interesting about this one in particular is Bode Glimt should be the heavy favourites for this one, mainly because of their heroic Europa League run they had last year, all the way to the semi-finals. First ever Norwegian team to ever go into a European semi-final. And particularly, I know they were in a little bit of trouble when they did play Tottenham Hotspur, but either way, it would have been either Tottenham Hotspur or Manchester United or Athletic Club who they would have played. And I think them three teams were probably going to be a bit too strong for Bode Glimt either way. So, they did give it their all. They did give it their all in that Europa League semi-final, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough. And they did end up losing to the eventual winners of the UEFA Europa League. So I suppose that for Bode Glimt is something better to carry on. Sturm Graz-wise, they didn't have a great year. They didn't have a great year in Europe. They did, however, get into the Champions League, which, is a big thing for them, but they didn't do great. They finished 30th with 6 points. They did win two. They did win 2 games. I think they won against RB Leipzig too, which isn't that bad, but Leipzig had an absolute shocker of a year then, so that probably is the reason why. But for Sturm Graz, it would be the 5th time in the Champions League if they do defeat Bode Glimt, while for Bode Glimt, it would end up being the first ever time. I mean, at this rate, they now seem like European minnows. They now seem like a team that are destined to qualify into Europe. I mean, it's usually the Europa League. But this time could actually be the charm for Bode Glimt. They could actually create history. Knetel Knutsen's side again. he could create history and he could take Bodø Glimt all the way to the Champions League, which I suppose that for Bodø Glimt and the town of Bodø, I mean, it's only a little town in Norway. Getting Champions League football is big. Getting Champions League football would be big over there, and I think we will do it. I think Bodø Glimt can do it. I mean, that Europa League run makes me think that they are one of the best teams in it, and they might even have a really good run in the Champions League. Who knows? They could be a team that surprises a few, especially away at Aspmyr Stadion, where this game will be taking place, the first leg. So I do think they'll surprise a lot of teams. I mean, Sturm Graz, obviously, they're good, but for me, they're yet to be unknown. Yeah, I don't really know what to expect from Sturm Graz. While Bodø Glimt, I know exactly what they will expect. They will expect a very, very tough game. So for this one, I'm going to say it will be a 2-0 Bodø Glimt win. I'm going to say it will be very convincing here at the Aspmyr Stadion. I think Bodø Glimt will have the firepower and depth to win this game. I think Kasper Høer and Fredrik Sørvold and Jens Petter Hauge, all good players for Bodø Glimt. But I think, especially Kasper Høer, that is enough. That is enough for me. Eight goals and assists he did score in the UEFA Europa League in particular. So he was one of their best players. So that is why I think Bodø Glimt will win quite easy in this one. And I'm going to say 2-0. Then let's return back south to Glasgow, this time to Celtic. Then off we go to Glasgow for this game between Celtic FC and Kairat Almaty, who, similar to Paphos, have never been in the Champions League before. And what makes this game rather interesting, for my opinion, is how far both sides have to travel. I mean, Kairat Almaty to Celtic Park, they'll have to be travelling over 6,000, estimating almost 6,000 kilometres. Similar to Celtic when they're going to Almaty, over 6,000 kilometres. The time zone and all will hit bad. I mean, Kazakhstan, I think they're 6 hours ahead of UK Greenwich Mean Time. So that, for, well, the timings, it's going to be a little bit awkward. But I think they can, I mean, they can adjust. They might not be able to adjust. But what I do find very interesting with Kairat Almaty is similar to Southern Bratislava. They have qualified from round 1. So they had to go all the way from round 1, 2, 3, 4 in the playoffs, which is very good. And speaking about Southern Bratislava, they actually defeated Southern Bratislava. They defeated him 1-1 on penalties. It was 1-0 in Almaty, 1-0 in Bratislava. And what was very interesting about that game is Dastan Setbiev, the young Kazakhstani guy, I think he's 17, 18 years old. 14 goals and assists in 2025. Last kick of the game, had a penalty, stood up, scored. And that is a momentous occasion, that, especially for a young guy, especially for a club like Kairat Almaty. But what is interesting about this is he will be joining Chelsea in 2026. So similar what they've done to Esteval when they scouted him and thingied when he played for Palmeiras. Sapiev will be the same from Kairat Almaty, that he will be going to Chelsea next season, which I think is rather interesting there for the club. But yeah, overall, Kairat Almaty is going to be very tough because Celtic, they had a good run. They had a really good run in the Champions League. I remember saying at the start of the season when I did my power rankings, match day 1, I didn't think they would do very well, but they proved me wrong. They did really good, and they got all the way to the. We got all the way to, not the last 16, but we got all the way to the league phase playoffs. So they did go into the playoffs, but in the league phase, where they did lose to Bayern Munich. And they were rather unfortunate, Celtic, because they were in the path where they could have played either Real Madrid or Bayern Munich. That's going to be a tough game. They got, for me, the easier one, Bayern Munich, and they gave themselves a really good game. And they only lost by 3-2, purely because of a last-minute goal from Alphonso Davies at the Allianz Arena. If it wasn't for him, Celtic might have gone through, and Celtic beating Bayern Munich would be big, especially in the Champions League, knocking out a team like Bayern Munich. So Celtic knows what to take in this competition, and Kairat Almaty don't. Now, I do think with this one, this will be a high-scoring affair. I don't think it will be. I think it will be a game where either side will have their moments, and I think either side will score. So don't get me wrong, this might be an absolute ridiculous scoreline, but I'm going to go for a 4-2 Celtic win. I think if they can take it 4-2 Kairat Almaty, they will be rather pleased, because the second leg in Almaty will be tough. It'll be tough for Celtic, and they haven't lost a game at home in Europe. I think they beat Coups, they beat Slovan Bratislava, obviously, at home. So they know what to contend with Kairat Almaty. They know that they are a good team. They know that at home, they are dominant. They're a dominant team. They beat Olimpia Ljubljana too at home. But away, I think they are a little bit different. So that is why I think Celtic will win pretty easy, I think. It could either be 5-2, but I think it will be 4-2. I'm going to go safe. I think there will be over 6 goals, potentially 6 goals in this game. That would be a good bet. Because Kairat Almaty, they will score goals. I reckon they will score goals. And Celtic, on the other hand, will score even more goals. But because of the depth, because of the better quality that they have, even on the bench, I think they will deliver. So it will be Celtic 4, Kairat Almaty 2, in my opinion. Guess where we're going now? Returning back to Switzerland to see the champions FC Basel. A team that hasn't been in the Champions League after an 8-year absence. FC Basel from Switzerland. And how good is it to see them back in the big stage? They are Switzerland's biggest club, I would say. Young boys, they're a shout. I know they've won the league a lot of times, especially recently, but I don't think they're at the level of FC Basel. I think Basel, particularly as a whole, are historic in Switzerland. You know when you know the name FC Basel, it has something to do with it. And so it is glad to see them in the Champions League. And they are playing against FC Copenhagen, who was in the Champions League in 2023-24. An interesting fact for you, both teams' last group stage game, or both sides' last group stage group, consisted Manchester United in it. FC Basel, 8-year absence, they were in a group with CSKA Moscow, Benfica and Manchester United. FC Copenhagen, they were in a group with Manchester United, Bayern Munich and Galatasaray. Also interesting, both teams went through. Basel and Copenhagen went through. Basel went through as being, first, maybe second. Copenhagen, I know, went through going second. And they both got knocked out by Manchester City. So there you go. Interesting. I know it all corresponds, it all links. So, that is a very interesting fact. But with Basel, with Copenhagen, they are two very simple teams. I think the two are the same. They act in the same way. I think Basel and Copenhagen, they're a club that tends to produce talent, top talent. Recently for Copenhagen, they produced Rune Badaji, who scored against Manchester United, who has gone to Barcelona now. So that shows the quality that Basel have. That shows the quality that they can have. And, Copenhagen have. Basel, on the other hand, you know what talent they've produced. They've produced recently the likes of Mohamed Saleh, Granit Xhaka, all key players who they did produce. The last time Basel played in Europe, actually, was 2022-23 Europa Conference League, where they finished second in Group H, but went all the way to the semi-finals, where they got knocked out by Fiorentina 4-3. What I find interesting is typical Basel is they produced players like Dan N'Joy, who's recently moved to Nottingham Forest, Riccardo Calafiori, who scored a goal against Manchester United, and Zeki Amdouni, who is playing for Burnley in the minute but used to play for Benfica. So that's obviously good recruitment there, and they are straight into the Champions League playoffs by the UEFA League coefficient, because Switzerland in the league coefficient is pretty good. They are straight into the Champions League playoffs, so they haven't had to have any of the really faff, unlike Copenhagen. Copenhagen went, I believe, from round 2, where they had to beat Drita from Kosovo and city rivals Malmö 5-0. And I know it's a bit thingy, but if you have a look, it's the shortest international border, Copenhagen and Malmö, and you only cross the bridge and then you're there. You just cross the bridge to get to Copenhagen to Malmö. So that shows that they are, very competitive. It shows that both sides, they want to win. It's the Øresund Bridge. In fact, it actually takes 36 minutes to get to Copenhagen to Malmö. So that was interesting, and they beat Malmö quite significantly. Now, the ones to watch here, for me particular, are Benny Traore and Youssoufa Moukoko. Especially Youssoufa Moukoko, who used to play for Dortmund, but he has now gone to FC Copenhagen. He bags potential, we all know that. We all know Moukoko, if he's in the right environment, he will bag potential. Benny Traore, very experienced and very technical winger that FC Basel have on the slings. But they also have experience, with Jean Jacquire especially. He was a key man from last season, and Marvin Hitz, who's, I believe, 38, 39, he's still producing the goods for Basel in there. So I think this could be a very tight. I think the St. Jakob Park crowd could make Basel... It could make the atmosphere a bit louder in this one. So a 2-1 Basel. Why not? Why not go for 2-1 FC Basel? I think this could be 2-1 or 2-2, to be fair. But I am saying I think the home crowd will be big in this game. I think the home crowd will be big. And they will roar their team on. So that is why I will say Basel 2, FC Copenhagen 1. I think Basel will win this one. Then finally, let's conclude the tour going to the transcontinental city of Istanbul, specifically the Asian side. And then last but not least, off to Istanbul, Constantinople. I know it's a song, but it is Istanbul. For this one between Fenerbahce and SL Benfica. Now, first of all, this is the first time Fenerbahce are playing in some sort of Champions League since 2010-11. They played in the UEFA Champions League playoffs that season and they lost. So I can imagine this stadium, the Shurku Çalhanoğlu, it will be roaring. It will be roaring. And you know who's manager. It's Jose Mourinho. Jose Mourinho, he's a character, we all know. He will make this feisty. He will make this a very tough game for Benfica. But Benfica are arguably the best team in this playoffs, without a shadow of a doubt. I think the best team we've seen in the playoffs for quite a long time. They are a very good and compact side. They recently too signed one of Europe's most promising midfielders, Richard Rios, from Palmeiras. So he's a good player. He is a good player without a shadow of a doubt, Benfica. And you've obviously got Pavlidis, who's still there. You've got Richard Rios, like I said, Enzo Berenchia, who came from Aston Villa, Friedrich Ausenes, Otamendi, Thomas Araujo, Amad Didic, who have signed from Salzburg. They're signing young again, and I like that from Benfica. They're signing young, and that usually works, but Fenerbahce have also boosted the squad with the signing of Jean Duran and Youssef En-Nesyri. Youssef En-Nesyri was last season, but Jean Duran especially helps, and Nathan Semedo from Wolves. That helps their team. And actually, if you look at the two teams, they are very close calls. There are games where they will be very tough to pick. They will be tough to pick. And I mean, here, especially at the Circus Sarıkoglu, it will be a tough game. It will be a tough game. I mean, look what they did to Feyenoord. Feyenoord, good team. They demolished them here at the Circus Sarıkoglu. I think it was 5-2. So when Fenerbahce are up for it, they're up for it. When they're up for it, they're up for it. And we know Turkey, it's a very tough place to play. Well, however the circumstances are, Turkey in particular is a very, very tough place to play. And I think that may benefit Fenerbahce. And that is obviously what we want to see. I mean, if they don't do great, if Fenerbahce do well, if Benfica do well, that'll spell a very good game. And that's all I want, really. Now, Benfica, obviously managed by Bruno Lage, they had a very good Champions League campaign. They did unfortunately lose to Barcelona over 5-4 in arguably one of the greatest ever Champions League games at the Estadio da Luz. So we know what they are capable of. We do know what they are capable of. They got knocked out by Barcelona last year in the round of 16 by 4-1, which was unlucky. Was very unlucky. They played AS Monaco. Brilliant game too. 3-3, knocked them out. But that's it. I mean, they did well. They defeated Nice in the run-up. Fenerbahce defeated Feyenoord in the run-up. So both sides will be up for it. They defeated Nice quite easily too. It was a very nice game for them. 4-0 overall on aggregate. So we know what they are made of. And actually, Benfica did play Fenerbahce in a friendly game, and they won 3-2. But I believe that might have been at Estadio da Luz. So it's going to be a good game, this one. It is going to be a very good game. And there is always high goals. And I'm going to say it will be a Desmond 2-2 draw. I think it will be a 2-2 draw here. If Fenerbahce can take a 2-2 draw, that would be massive. Because I can imagine going to Estadio da Luz second leg, it will be tough. It will be very tough. Fenerbahce can do it. Fenerbahce have all the firepower they need. Jean Duran, Youssef En-Nesyri, Even Archie Brown, who had a 10.0 performance by SofaScore against Feyenoord, he had a brilliant performance at this ground. They will perform. They will do well, both sides. So that is why I think it will be a very entertaining game to watch, especially with the Fenerbahce crowd, especially Jose Mourinho trying to hype them up. So that is why I think it will finish 2-2 in this one. It'll be tight. It'll be very tight, but I think 2-2 draw is probably the best. So just like that, then I will get going. And that was fun. That was fun, and we are going to do the same all over again next week, where it will be round 2, leg 2 of the UEFA Champions League playoff predictions. I do love this type of video, and it is one of the best videos that year, the Champions League playoff videos. I don't know why, but it just is. I love it. I love it, and that is the fun. That is the fun of this YouTube channel. You get to experience it all with me. Just like that, then, I will get going. See you soon. Stay safe. I'll be talking to you a lot then in the next one. See ya, and bye-bye.